Gratitude and Anthology is out.
With over 50 different perspectives and stories on gratitude, this book captures what most books don't. The secret sauce is in the number of voices and stories where you'll be sure to find a personal connection to so many as I did. A really excellent book, David Freeman. Found exclusively on Amazon.com.
Hi, I'm Chris, and welcome to GratitudeSpace Radio. I've got my friend Sandy coming in from California, I believe. Hey, Sandy, how you doing?
Hey, Chris. Good morning.
Good morning. You are in California, right? Was I right about the state?
I am in Southern Cal, and I'm grateful to be here.
I'm grateful for you to be here, too. And like we were saying before, I always love starting these out. You know, people meet each other, but there's always a lot of components, people, places, and things. I like to think of all as possible gratitude moments or things to be grateful for. So from my perspective, I met Sandy through a app called Podmatch. And the cool thing about Podmatch is I initially had a friend share it with me, and then I didn't do anything. And then I had another friend talk, you know, it's an amazing thing when you see other people sharing things, go, this is really amazing. I got on, and so Podmatch basically allows people to have podcasts, or people who want to be on podcasts, allows them to connect inside of their program. And then so basically they're setting the table for these conversations to happen. So a platform that allows that to happen is really cool, because I would never, who knows if Sandy and I ever would have met each other if it wasn't for Podmatch.
Maybe not.
So how did you, yeah, me too. How did you come across Podmatch?
Well, I regularly go on a like a virtual meeting for Orange County Speakers Network, and my friend Lisa Reed, who facilitates that. One day we were on there, and we ended up in a breakout room together, and she was saying, well, have you ever done Podmatch? Because we ended up talking about podcasts and how fun they are, and how you get to just really meet really cool people. And I said, no, Podmatch. And she said, oh, you've got to get connected with Podmatch. And so I did. I mean, as soon as the meeting was over, I got on there and filled out my profile, and boom. I mean, and then the neat thing about Podmatch is that I don't know whether there is an algorithm that kind of connects people. I don't really know, but they match you up. And I kind of was scrolling down through there, and the minute I saw gratitude, I'm like, okay, I'm there. You know, I mean, there's certain things that we all connect with, and there's certain things that sort of reach out and tap our heart, right? And that was, yours was one of them, and so I reached out to you, and we had a little chat a couple of months ago, and here we are.
Yeah, that's wonderful. Yeah, I love again these connections to meet people right now in the world we're living in is just so. I feel so much gratitude for it. I really do. Like, to just the people I've met in the different parts of the world, and the conversations that are had, and the ideas shared, and then the connections that come from the connections, and just the impossibility you take away if you don't have that component of, say, the internet, right? Like,
yes,
or just these people that are putting together amazing ways for people to connect and share. That would, it's the world is so big, and it's like, it gets, even though it's so big, it seems like it gets smaller with these applications and these people trying to put in components for us to all meet, which is great.
Right.
And connect.
In fact, I was listening to one of your podcasts a few days ago. I think it was the one with Bob Berg and Peter. And and that was the thing. It was like, okay, Bob's in Florida, I think. Right. You're in Kentucky. Peter was in Hong Kong? Yeah. It's like, oh my gosh, this is amazing.
It is. Yeah. I mean, it's, what did I do? I did another one anyways, yeah, it's, the Bob Berg one was really great, because Peter, you think about people sharing ideas. So Peter, shared Bob's book to our friend Gail. Now she wasn't our friend Gail at the time. It was just Peter's friend Gail. And then Peter introduced me to Gail, and I got in a group with Gail. And then sometime later, Gail said something about the book to me. Then I read the book, right? And so I enjoyed the book. And then I got back with Peter, and I was like, we should have this guy on, because I believe Peter was connected with him on LinkedIn. Think about, again, like networks. And then Bob's like, yeah, come on. And then there we are, the three of us talking about the book and gratitude.
Yeah.
So,
That's just where the magic happens, right? Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's being around people that just want to show up, right? They're just I think they're curious and they want to help out, in one way or another.
Yes.
It's really
Yeah.
amazing. So Sandy, I'm gonna do my best to be quiet because I'd love to hear about your journey, about who you are, and especially about your passion for mentorship.
Okay, yeah. Well, I'm not only grateful to be here, but thinking about coming on and sort of preparing mentally. I started thinking back on, what does gratitude mean to me, and thinking about the joy that it brings to me to focus on all that I have, the people that I love, the opportunities that come my way and the blessings. It takes the focus off of me and it opens up my heart to embrace, I think, even more gratitude. And so for me, being grateful and being, it really opens up the ability to receive more and to be more authentic. And, somebody asked me not too long ago who, because I'm so passionate about mentoring others. And they asked me, well, how did that happen? How did your heart kind of turn in that direction? And I started to think back about, the first mentor in my life was my dad. And he was, all that he taught us when we were kids, the work ethic that he passed on to us, he was an honest man. He was a hard worker. He wasn't afraid to work with his hands, and he did. And so those kinds of lessons that he passed on to us, I can see even today in my life, my own life and my brother's lives, how that just continues to happen. And then the very first, so my dad, of course, was my first mentor. And then the first boss that I ever had, he was a gentleman called Charles Alford. And I worked for him when I was probably 20. And he actually invented the riveting machine for the aircraft industry. And he taught me so much just by letting me grow, letting me make mistakes, just allowing me that space. And I will be eternally grateful to him. And he was another mentor that I had early on. And, so when you think about the mentors in your life and who've been there for you and who've poured into you, and, they might be people that you never meet. You can have mentors that are authors that you've fallen in love with, that really, really speak to you and resonate with you. They could be podcasters like yourself, Chris, people that you are blessed to meet, people that maybe you admire or aspire to be like them. There are mentors all around us. We just have to be open to their input and what they can offer us, truly. But I think moving forward a little bit, when I founded the Master's Program for Women, which is a faith-based leadership program, I founded that in 2000 and taught that nationally and internationally for about almost 20 years. I think that's when my love for mentoring was kind of birthed, because I was with groups of women. I was pouring my life into them. I was seeing them grow and change, and I was helping to equip them to find their path and to stay on that path and to kind of reach their goals, to look out into the future. So that really started to birth in me, and during all those years, and now it's a part of me. I mean, it's who I am. I can't really separate myself from that, and so I'm very grateful for that, because it's been such a joy for me in my life.
That's beautiful. Can I ask you the mentor that you talked about? Obviously, I know how you met your father, but the gentleman when you were 20 years old on the job. You said his name was Charles or James? I'm sorry.
Charles Alford.
Charles. Yeah.
Yes.
So what were the elements that came into play to get you into his office where you became, you were working for him? How did that happen?
Well, actually, a friend of mine was a neighbor of his.
Oh,
and
wow.
they lived in the same community in San Marino, which is a beautiful old classic Southern California area up by Pasadena, and the Rose Bowl up in that area in Southern California. And she somehow or other, probably through her parents, heard that he was looking for a front office kind of gal to answer the phone, and just it was an entry level position. Right. And I didn't live too far from there, probably 20 minutes, because I was up there with her all the time. And so I went in and applied for the job, and lo and behold, I got the job.
I love that, because it's like here the little elements there, right? It's like, this is your friend. She lives in this neighborhood. He's the neighbor. They know, it's like there's so many like little there's just little moments there that and then all that happens, and then you're sharing the story about how he changed your life, mentoring you so many years later. It's so beautiful. Yeah. Wow, very cool. When you're speaking about growing with the women and helping mentor them and helping them follow through, I kept thinking about one of the keys for being a catalyst for gratitude is just being kind and showing up, right, and being present. And when you're a mentor, being with somebody is allowing that space to happen because they are being there, present, and showing that they care. So I feel like there's so much gratitude, not only in the receiving but the giving of that space, to somebody else. There's so much gratitude there.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. I loved being with the women. We would meet quarterly, and a lot. For 8 years, I flew back to Charlotte 4 times a year, and I was with the women, or in Houston, and I just got. They're lifelong friends. We've just developed friendships that will always be there. And the space that we created over those 3 years of being together once a quarter, we became very honest and unashamed of who we were, and allowed one another the space to grow and to learn about who we are. What makes us tick, how we fail. Can we fail forward? Is that possible? Those kinds of things. And I think time like that together is just so invaluable. And I think that's where, for me, leading me into this whole space of mentoring one-on-one with people is it's a treasure for me. It really is, because I'm a very relational person. So I love people. I love being with people. I'm sort of a I'm not an introvert. I'm not really a full-on extrovert. I'm kind of like right in the middle. But I need to be around people. That's where I get my energy. That's where I sort of recharge my battery to a certain point, and then I have to kind of back off and recharge again and get into my quiet space.
Yeah, I'd like to share, if you don't mind. I'd like to share about my mentor and how I met him with you. So I have an amazing man in my life. His name's Thomas Kalopoulos, and he's an author and a keynote speaker. And I guess it was a little over 6 years ago. So these are little elements, right? So I started my my gratitude journey. I started my website, and when I started my website, I actually initially I ended up recording 4 podcast episodes. This is like 6 years ago. And at the time, I had the wrong metrics in my head about the whole thing. I can look back on that now because where I'm sitting with you now. At the time, the metrics in my head were people have to be listening to this. Otherwise, there's no value to it. That was my metrics in my head. And I'll tell you, I enjoyed recording those things. spending the time with it, but it deflated me as soon as like, you put it out and you realize it's like party of one type of thing. But I'm saying that for two reasons. One is like, anybody, the metrics now with like this podcast was I was going to do 12 episodes to see what happened. That was it, right? The metrics were, the goal is 12. Let's see what happens. It was a curiosity. Completely changed my life. But backing up to 6 years ago, one of the people I connected with, which was through Twitter, because I follow the hashtag gratitude, was a guy named Kevin Caldwell. And I ended up having him on the podcast, and awesome guy. And sometime after that, he just shot me a tweet, like a message on Twitter saying, you need to check this guy out. And he had the link to an article that Thomas wrote for Inc. magazine, because Thomas writes for Inc. magazine. And it was, I think it was titled, Do This for 30 Days and It'll Change Your Life. And I went to the link and I read the article, and I was just like, wow. At the end of the article, I was like, this guy gets gratitude. This guy's awesome. I was like, I want to talk to this guy. And I was already in the mindset of like, I'm just looking for people to collaborate and create spaces for gratitude. That's all I want to do is talk to people and create spaces. How can we co-create space together? Because it's something that's very, people are into gratitude, depending on their passions and love. There's a lot, you know what I mean? It's an open-ended conversation. How does that work? So the cool thing is because of Twitter, I just sent him this tweet saying, Thomas loved your article. Would you be interested in talking about a gratitude project? So it was either that day or the next day. He writes me back and he's like, sure. And we got up DMing and we set up a time. It was probably within 2 days, a time to have a conversation, actually get on the phone. So now I know I'm going to meet this guy, and I go, oh, I better check out this guy. Because at that point I was just like, okay, I read the article. I was like, it's cool. But I get on his website and like, I'm seeing all the books he's wrote, and the main thing that sticks out about the website is he has a quote from Steve Wozniak, the co-founder of Apple, where he says, Thomas Kalopoulos is the best speaker I've ever heard, and that's all the TED Talks I ever went to. So I'm like, oh, well, this guy's obviously been in the room speaking in front of some pretty successful, you know what I mean, pretty heard of people, whatever you want to say that, right? So, we get on the call the next day, and the nice thing is we both have a really vivid memory of this moment of us officially meeting, and as he tells it, he probably initially said a little bit, but then I did most of the talking because he just wanted to hear about, I was just sharing about my journey, about losing my mom to cancer, and about the letter I wrote her, and my, all my, where this has led me and what's coming up. And we got, I got done talking, and he basically, he said, he blew me away. He said, well, Chris, he's like, how can I help you? So he wasn't sitting there he wasn't throwing any ideas at me. He didn't have suggestions. He was just like, after hearing my story, he's just like, how can I help you? And it really, I don't think anybody, especially I know a stranger's never done that, especially somebody in this situation. And what we moved on from there was that he would basically be like my mentor, and that I could bounce ideas off him, and he would help me in any way he could. And, he's been there with me the whole time, the ups and downs and everything. And even I just know, speaking with who he is, like, I honestly mean this. It's like, I could not afford his time. If I have to pay his rate, I could not afford his time, but he always makes time for me. He shows up, he cares about me. He appreciates and loves what I'm doing. And it just comes through, and he makes time for me, and it means so much to me. And I'm gonna say one last thing, and then I'll be quiet about this. But people, I think for a long time I was looking for, you're always looking to get paid, right? You want to be getting paid, which I think people should get paid for what they're doing. But if you can flip your mind to basically saying, being open into all the gifts that you're being given, you can see if we have that mindset, right? You can go, wow, what a gift Thomas gives me every time I talk to him. Where's the value? Can you put a value on that? Like we talk about mentorship, or like somebody caring about you. You can't put a value on that. You know what I mean? You cannot put a dollar amount on that. So that's my friend and mentor, Thomas Kalopoulos, who I love so much.
Wow. I love that story. I love that story. And you're so right. I mean, a lot of people, there is no value. There is no value from it because it's spontaneous. it's heartfelt, mentors that I think really true mentors genuinely care. And
Right.
that's the currency, right? It's not just emotional currency, it's just the currency of caring about people and wanting to add value to them. And I mean, one of the, I don't know what made me think of it, but this is probably one of those brain connections when you were talking, and I remember, I don't think that when you think about the foundation of gratitude, I don't think that you can be truly grateful if you can't be, if you don't care about yourself, and you don't have love for yourself. And something that you said in that story brought me back to thinking of I was at a John Maxwell event, probably 10 years ago, and I was looking for this book. It's called Aspire, and it's written by Kevin Hall. I don't know if you've read it or know the book at all, but he was at the event, and this book had just come out, and so John sort of promoted the book a little bit for Kevin. And I remember that the title Aspire just really kind of grabbed me, and I thought, wow, I'd like to aspire to something, what would that be, right? And so I remember, so I bought the book, and right off, I mean, it's every single chapter speaks to me in a way that I have to really stop and think and self-analyze. And the very first chapter, the very first thing he talked about was a term called genshai, and that is basically what that means is treating yourself well and caring for yourself. But every chapter is something wonderful so here's a book that has mentored me. I mean, I've read this book so many times, and I've given a couple of Toastmaster speeches on parts of this book, because it's so, I need things to inspire me,
Right.
so that I can aspire to be better, be a better person, be a better mentor to others, be a better friend.
Right. I love how you, like you said, you're pointing out, like, obviously being mentored. It's there's so many different ways to do it. And I think books, obviously books have the power to do that. Right. And there's amazing books out there. And then, speaking to another mentor, my friend, Bobby Kuntz, he'll, when you're in a mentorship and, you care, the person cares about you, when they, when they suggest things, you take it a little more seriously than, say, like your friend, you know what I mean? Like, they're actually speaking to you about something, opposed to just sharing something with you.
Yes.
And obviously you can't pick up everything depending on, but you obviously appreciate, maybe you take a note, maybe you take a book and you save it on Amazon, or, you know what I mean? Like, these little nuggets, they're little nuggets. And, Bobby Kuntz has been so amazing to me. It was last year, I think it was while I was writing my book, Dear Gratitude. He told me, he's like, I've got this book I just finished reading here in the audiobook called Big Magic by Elizabeth Gilbert. And he's like, I'm gonna, basically, I think, I didn't even know this. So Audible, if you haven't, like, you can share a book that you get in Audible, like, only one time, like, you can just give it away to somebody else.
Oh.
I don't know if only one account can do that, or you can do it either which way. He's like, look, give me your Audible account. I'm just gonna gift this to you. I was like, okay, that's cool. So he sends me his book, and I'll tell you, so I listened to the audiobook, in the morning, before my writing and my meditation, I would meditate. I think I'd read here. I put it as part of the morning thing where I would listen to it, but I listened to the whole thing. Then I bought the book and I read it afterwards, because I liked it so much. And even, I think it was like 2 months ago or last 6 weeks, I listened to it again. And I'll tell you, that book mentored me so well. And I just want to tell you this one takeaway, and I'm glad, I appreciate you mentioning Aspire, because I love hearing these little, like, you know, these little nuggets that make you go, well, maybe I should check that book out. So what she says in Big Magic, you know, is basically what I got away. What I really took away was, you know, you shouldn't put so much pressure on your art. And this was working so well with me in my book. You know, it's like the idea I was running with my book was, the goal of the book, writing the book, was to have a book. The goal of the book wasn't, it has to sell 10,000 copies. You know what I mean? Like, I wasn't putting my art my goal wasn't at the feet of 10,000 people. You know what I mean? Like, it wasn't like it was within my control. And if you know, the art of me was just obviously just the creation of the art, in which you really, you know, the speaking of, just to me, I took, was like, the goal should be what you can control, right? Anything can happen after you get the goal. But if your goal is, you know, you got to be an A-list celebrity, well, good luck to you. You know, if it's a New York Times bestseller, good luck to you. If it's the top podcast in the world, good luck to you. But the problem with the whole mindset is, if you don't reach it, you've lost. You officially, you're in your mind, you're a loser, because our goal was to get here. And, you know, you just chose like the biggest summit in the world, which very few people get to. But what if your goal was, you know, I'm gonna hike 10 miles, right? Instead of like, I'm gonna, you know, go to the sun. You know what I mean? Like, if your goal is something that you can go, okay, I got there. With the book, it was this thing. It was like, the book's goal was to write the book, and I was doing, and that's all it was. Now, hopefully it travels. I want people to read it, but if the goal is 10,000 people have to read it, I'm going to feel like a loser. You know what I mean? I'm setting myself up for it. Now, people might read, but that can't be the goal. The goal should be to have the book. You know, don't put so much stress. Don't stress your art. Don't stress your creativity. You know, because you're just, it's that mental mindset, and that's why there's so many other nuggets. But if I can drive home to people, like, because I've done that. I've put my whole life and my ambition at the feet of other people, because about, you know, acceptance, money, or goals, right? And don't get me wrong, I know that can happen, but it normally doesn't, and I don't think it's healthy either way. So, turning right back around to what you were saying before, I like to start the day with saying I'm enough. You know, and my friend Dina, when I asked him, what does gratitude mean to you? He was quoting, I don't remember the lady's name, but she has a thing where I am enough. And bottom line is, if you love yourself, you don't need anything else. If you love yourself, if you are enough, you know what I mean? Like, you don't need somebody else's love to make you feel loved.
That's right. Which is to make you feel whole.
Exactly. It makes you a valuable
person. Yeah.
Right. It's so if you can wake up and say you're enough, like, you're in a complete state of gratitude.
Mm-hmm.